Hello, everybody. WeeB'S here, and welcome back to the Otaku Overload Podcast, episode 45. This week, we are back to hopefully normal. For anyone who doesn't know what I mean, last week, if you didn't listen to the podcast, I actually did it solo. Did my little anime summer 2023 episode by myself because the Legend of Jonathan was sick. He was out of commission. He wasn't really able to he wasn't available to record. So I just did a short podcast, although it wasn't even that short. It ended up being like a full-length podcast where I just covered a whole bunch of anime from the season, as well as some other shows that I watched. So I think it went pretty well, honestly, despite being by myself. But regardless, I'm glad that Legend Jonathan is back, so we can, just get back to normal. So Legend Jonathan, how are you doing? You're feeling better, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I still have like runny nose kind of here and there, but like I'm doing pretty good, yeah.
That's good that at least you're doing better. I mean, you sound better because I know that that's why we
hmm
weren't able to record because you sounded like really bad. But glad you are back. And yeah, I don't think I told you yet, but last episode I was telling everybody it's been kind of a bit rough because you were out of commission. Terrific had some personal stuff going on, so he wasn't able to
Yeah,
record. I have been busy with a lot of work and stuff, so I wasn't even able to really apart from the podcast, I wasn't
yeah.
able to really sit down and record any one-offs or anything either. So the channel's been kind of on standby for a bit, but luckily you're back. We're doing this podcast episode, and we'll see if we already talked about that part. Shortly after this, hopefully we'll get back to recording a little bit. We'll see how that
hmm
goes. So we'll see how the channel. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the channel's been a bit on standby for a bit, but hopefully we can start getting back into things. So
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
yeah. Alrighty, but episode 45, we're back. We have some stuff to talk about. We have some news to talk about. And as usual, we have a little recommendation of the week at the end. So I think this should be a pretty good podcast. First off, of course, you finally watched the thing that we had talked about a couple weeks ago. You said you were going to watch it. I, of course, watched it, and I kind of talked about it last week, but I was just very brief because I wanted to go into more detail with you. So tell the people what you watched so we can dive into it.
Okay, let's go, guys. Let's go. I was actually really hyped and I liked it a lot. I watched Adventure Time Fionna Cake. I finally watched it. Um,
Nice.
yeah, it was really good. I liked it. Um, so yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty cool, you know. I finally watched every single episode. I watched all 10 of them. And outside of that, that was pretty cool seeing them again, Fiona and Kate, which, I think you've already explained, but for the people who don't know, Fiona and Kate, um, if you've ever watched the original Adventure Time, you would know that, it's Finn the human and Jake the dog, and that those are the main two protagonists from that show. And then there were some episodes where they showed Fiona the human and Cake the cat. And the thing was that they were like the gender swapped versions of, Finn and Jake. And then obviously, we could just say species as well because, dog, cat. And that basically here they show them again, and here they actually expand their role outside of those few episodes. And they try to go more deeper into the lore and I don't know, I'm trying not to spoil, that's the thing. But basically, yeah, it's about them. They go on these crazy adventures here. And they basically in this series they cross to different universes and timelines. That's the only thing I was mentioned too. And I don't know, man. I just thought it was pretty good. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, I kind of talked about it last week, but I said that I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought that it was cool seeing them going to these different, universes. It's like a whole multiverse thing. I thought it was cool that it feels like it's a show that's definitely, aged with its audience. Think about
That's
the original Adventure Time. It started off pretty goofy. Then as they progressed, by the end, it felt very Finn is obviously way older and he's matured and stuff.
mhm.
Same as kind of the audience that watched it, I guess. And then we had all of these like little spin-off things like the distant lands and all that stuff
Mm-hmm.
that they definitely felt more mature. I felt like they were kind of like experimenting a bit and going with like some like like bigger themes, I guess you can say, like deeper themes and stuff.
Mm-hmm. They went more
And
deeper, yeah.
and then here definitely they went even farther, you know what I mean? So I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was really cool. And yeah, I think that's pretty good for like an overall thought on it. You know what I mean? Like kind of opinion on
Mm-hmm.
it. I would say, if you haven't checked it out yet, you should go check it out. We both recommend it, as you can see. We both think it's pretty good, really fun. I think it's a very good continuation of the series, right?
Mm-hmm. It's really good. I loved it a lot.
Yeah, and I guess from here is where we would kind of talk about spoilers because, like I said, we've been kind of waiting a few weeks to talk about this. Especially last week, I was going to talk about it, but I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
nah, I'm gonna wait because Legend John said he wanted to like watch it. So I guess from here forward is where we're all like get more into like specifics, like spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who wants to watch it, go check it out, then come back or whatever. But we are gonna like actual details and stuff. So you've been warned.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, to get into more details, because we're kind of trying to avoid spoilers. Basically, in the original series, all of Fionna and Cake, it was weird because all we knew is that supposedly it was like a fan fiction written by Ice King. Then in the
Mm-hmm.
last episode where they appeared, there was this weird thing where like, no, Fionna and Cake is like a real show or something, and it was like getting like beamed into Ice King's head, and that's why he was writing the story supposedly, right? Because we see
Mm-hmm.
like this like
Yeah.
weird animal person that they were like a fan of the show, and that's kind of all they said. So they left it like in a really weird spot, and that's why I was so interested when I heard there was going to be like a Fionna and Cake like spinoff thing. Because I'm like, yeah, we definitely need clarification because it ended like on such a weird note, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so when they said they're going to continue it, I was really glad. And sure enough, it's pretty interesting. Like in the first episode, it's all about okay, Fionna is living in a seems like our world, seems very realistic. There's no magic anywhere. And all of the people that should be all these different creatures, they're just people. Like we see all of like the human versions of all these people. And it's just her living this life where she feels like she has dreams about how magic should exist and she wishes her life had adventure, but she's just this young woman living in like a crappy apartment with all these like dead end jobs and her pet cat Cake, and that's kind of what it shows in the first episode. And the second episode, it picks up that we see Simon, that after the end of the original Adventure Time, he isn't Ice King anymore. He is really sad because Betty basically fused with 𝐦𝐤, which is that weird like
Mm-hmm.
deity of chaos or whatever. And in the little epilogue, it even shows that he went like all over trying to find a way to like see Betty again and free her, but nothing worked. He even talked to Prismo, the Wishmaster, and that didn't work either. You know what I mean? So when we pick up, he's living in I guess it's like this city, this floating city that the humans made because like all the humans came to 𝐸 finally, and he lives as almost like this like historian slash almost like almost like a zoo where people can watch him like live his life
Mm-hmm.
as like a
That's what I was
person.
gonna say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of his life as his life from like the person from the past. And he like talks about like, oh, this is like a telephone, and this is me eating cereal. This is what people in the past used to do, stuff like that. But you can tell he hates his life. He's miserable. He's depressed. He goes to like a bar, and Finn is there, and that's what I thought was really
Mm-hmm.
fun. We get to see Finn. He's even older now, and he's all bearded up and like buff and big and stuff. Really funny, and he's trying to cheer Simon up. And we kind of see that Finn is obviously going through some stuff because yeah, Jake is gone. He has that Jake
Mm-hmm.
tattoo, and he can tell he's kind of trying to cope with Jake's loss by just doing all sorts of like adventuring and like dangerous stuff to distract himself. And he tries to do the same for Simon, but it doesn't work. Simon's still sad, even though he says it works supposedly. And yeah, basically that's what happens. And he goes home. He does this ritual to try to like summon 𝐦𝐤, and he ends up summoning Fionna and Cake out of his head into 𝐸. And
Mm-hmm.
from there, that's how we kind of find out that, Fiona's in that world, Cake's in that world. They're kind of running around. They're impressed by all the magic and stuff. And eventually, Prismo, he kind of summons Fionna, Cake, and then Simon to his, fortress, whatever you call it, where he lives. And that's where he kind of explains that he created their world because he was like bored, and he created their world. And because he's not supposed to create his own worlds, he can only like do stuff like if it's a wish for others.
Yeah.
He hid it in Ice King's mind. So it's not really a retcon of what we saw originally. It's kind of like an expansion of it. That's what they meant when it was getting beamed into his head. It's that he's the one who put it into Ice King's mind. And then Ice King, because it was like in his imagination, he would write like the little stories based off of what was going on inside his head. But now that he's been cured of being Ice King, now that he's not insane anymore, that he's Simon, that's why for some reason it affected Fionna and Cake's world. And it was like a normal, like world like ours with no magic, basically. And so they're being chased by this guy called the Scarab. He's this bug-looking guy that he's basically think about like kind of like an IRS guy that's
That's what I was thinking of.
yeah, he's going around and he's kind of doing audits, but he's doing like audits of like people if they aren't like following the rules of like the multiverse or whatever. And basically he's the antagonist for basically this whole season, and he's after Fionna and Cake because they shouldn't exist. And so he's chasing them, through all these like different universes and stuff. And Fionna and Cake, they just want to bring back magic back to their world. Simon's all depressed, but they kind of convince him to help him out. And so he says that if he finds another crown and he gets, his powers of Ice King, that he can bring magic back to their world. And that's kind of what like the rest of, after like the first like, after the setup, that's what the episodes are about. And yeah, they just travel all these different worlds. They're trying to chase for a crown. And Ice King, he's all depressed. And he wants to like meet with Betty's the whole point, and all this stuff is happening. And we return to Farm World, which is really interesting. If anyone remembers, that's the world that Finn went to when he made his wish. That it was like a normal world. And we see that, yeah, Farm World Finn, he's older now. And he's like a widower who has like 5 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a whole like little plot there. There's a world where Ice King, he's all suave. His name is Winter King. And Princess Bubblegum is the one that's all insane and stuff. That was like a fun world. There's a world where everyone's just babies. There's a world.
Cool.
Yeah, that one was just fun. There's a world where that lion that was like the Vampire King from that Stakes miniseries. There's a world where he basically rules everything, and Marcelina's like his right hand person, and Princess Bubblegum is this like rebel fighter teamed up with some people to try to like take her down. Those universes like that, and we see the world of Shermie and Beth some more, which they showed up at like the end of like the original series. We see a world of theirs and stuff, and I don't know. There's all sorts of like spin-off worlds that are like really fun. And yeah, I really liked it. Like I said, I thought it was really good. I thought the story was really good. Basically, how it ends is that Simon is willing to put the crown back on and turn back into Ice King, but Betty, who's combined with 𝐥𝐤, she interferes because she doesn't want to put on the crown. And then through that world of Shermie and Beth, and Simon being in Shermie's brain, and there's like this book that he reads that it's like kind of like an analogy for the relationship of Simon and Betty, and how they loved each other, but the relationship had a lot of problems because she was like too sacrificial for him. Like, she would do anything for him because she was obsessed with him. And then meanwhile, Simon, he kind of didn't take her into account because I guess he was just so happy to have someone that like seemed like they were interested in all the stuff that he was. And so he never really like kind of like did what she wanted to do, if that makes sense. And it kind of teaches him that like he kind of needs to like let her go and stuff and move on. And so it's really sad, honestly, that last episode.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And so basically it's all about that he kind of learns that he has to like move on, that the choices they made, they kind of have to live with them, and that, it would have been nice if things were different, but they're not. and that he should kind of use that second chance that Betty gave him, basically. And so he has that chance to kind of talk to her in this kind of like almost like spirit realm, and he says goodbye to her, basically. And then he kind of gets booted back to Ooh. And then in the world of Fionna and Cake, you know, they're not able to bring magic back to it, unfortunately, but they are able to make her world part of the multiverse. They're able to make it like a real world because before it was just kind of like its own thing. And she kind of learns to appreciate what she has, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought the ending was a bit anticlimactic. I'm like, really? They just decided not give her like any magic, and like she never meets Finn, and some stuff like that that was really weird, honestly. And then like some of the characters from the farm world, they end up jumping over to Fiona's world, and it's kind of like, did they just ditch their world and family without knowing if they can ever go back? That's kind of weird.
Yeah, like people from like the other universes just started showing up, and I was kind of like, okay, so like, is Fiona's world just gonna be like one giant hub, I guess, then, or like what's gonna happen too? Because yeah, everyone just started coming in, and I was like, okay,
And then the implication is they came without knowing if they could ever like go back.
that's another thing too. Like, how do you like, yeah,
So it's like
like,
they just ditched their world and families and stuff, which is really weird. So the ending for me was not perfect. I thought it was a bit anticlimactic. I thought it was kind of like, really? So just no magic at all, huh? Except for Cake. I mean, she can talk now. She's a talking cat with the stretchy powers in basically the real world. But she's like the only magic aspect. So I was like, really? Like no magic at all? Even though that's what it seemed like she wanted the whole time. That's kind of weird. The fact that she never meets the original Finn, I thought that was kind of lame. The fact that, yeah, they just kind of like all these people came over and like that was really weird, you know what I mean? So I didn't think the ending was like perfect. I had kind of some issues here and there with it. But overall, though, I did like it. Like it wasn't perfect, but I would give this whole thing like a easily like an 8.5 or like a 9 out of 10.
yeah, same, honestly.
Yeah, because it had its issues. It felt kind of rushed at the end. It was kind of weird.
That's what I was gonna say. Because what sucked was that like the way it ends is kind of like, oh yeah, she says something like, Fiona says something like, oh, just another day, right? And it kind of just goes up to the sky and then it ends right there. What sucks is like for me, I feel like there's so much they can still do with Fiona and Cake, and even like Shermie and Beth, you know? And it's kind of like, are you guys gonna really just end it here then? Because like unless you guys are gonna make a second season or maybe like like 9 more seasons, kind of like the original, like then I'm gonna be happy knowing that there's gonna be more, you know. But like here, it
Yeah,
felt just like
and then that's the thing. There's rumors they might make more. There's rumors that make a second season. There's rumors they're gonna try to see if they can keep making like different spin-offs of different characters and stuff. So I mean, that could happen. That would be cool. But if not, then again, the ending wasn't terrible, but it just did feel
yeah,
kind of rushed. It felt a bit off.
yeah,
But it wasn't bad though. Like if anyone listening to this, don't think that we're saying like, oh, it was terrible and I like regret watching it or like, any of that. No, no, not at all. It's just that it felt like the ending was a bit rushed
yeah.
and it felt like, if that really is the all we're getting, kind of weird. If we get
It's kind of
more,
yeah.
then okay, at least I can understand they kind of left some plot points open. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I thought the story was cool. I thought that Simon's whole story, like the fact that he's almost became like the main character of Adventure Time. It's so weird if you think about it.
It really has been weird that he evolved from being basically like the antagonist, like the first antagonist, to being like the main, like almost the main protagonist, yeah, of the series.
Because it really is kind of like his story. Like he's like survived all these different eras, and at the end he's finally moving on. Finally, like it's really crazy to
Hmm.
really think about. Yeah. But I really like what they've done with Simon. I thought his whole relationship his whole relationship with Betty was really sad. Because
Hmm.
once again, it's not that like they were saying like, oh, their relationship was like toxic or like a bad relationship, like it never should have happened, sort of thing. Because I saw some people like trying to like reading it that way, which I thought was ridiculous. Not at all. It's not.
Yeah,
It's just that like it had its flaws, and it's really sad that they kind of didn't realize until it was too late, which was sad. So I just thought that it was like, man, it really kind of like it's sad, that at the end they do say their goodbyes and they do kind of try to find their peace with one another and with
Hmm.
like themselves. But it's just like it's like a tragic like love story basically.
Yeah, because I was gonna say it's like the thing too, where if people are kind of getting that idea, it's like that's not how it works too. I feel like the point is it's to show like they had a good relationship. It's just good relationships aren't perfect, obviously. They have like, yeah, they're flawed, you know. So
Yeah,
like obviously
it was obvious that they like really loved each other and all this stuff. And but like I said, it was just one of those things where like, yeah, Betty was always like
the
obsessed with
sacrificer.
him and like she was like willing to sacrifice like everything at like a moment's notice for him. And him, I mean, he was just so like, I guess, infatuated with her. He was just so like happy that like, oh, she wants to like, research all the same things I do and like this and that. He like never really like
Asked her like, hey, what do you want to do? You
yeah,
know?
like, do you really want to do this, or are you only doing it because like I want to do it? You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
again, it wasn't like it was like a bad, abusive relationship or anything. It's just one of those things where it's like there was like a lack of communication and stuff, obviously, which is sad.
Hmm.
But yeah, I thought that like the way it ended was like, pretty satisfying, though it was like tragic. And yeah, I was pretty happy with, like I said, different characters and stuff was pretty cool. Um, I mean, I'm happy that Fiona found peace in her everyday life or whatever. Though I'm still kind of weird that like I said, she didn't feel like she never met like original Finn, and
I
she
thought it
never,
was weird,
yeah,
yeah.
and she never did learn to like actually like be a fighter or like an adventurer like in the original series. You know what I mean? Because here she was like, no, I'm like a regular person because like of how Simon, all of like the magic of our world is lost, and she never really like got back her like adventurousness, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So at the end, she's just living like a normal life with like her normal friends. It's kind of like, I don't know, I was gonna say it felt kind of weird, but I don't know. The point is, it's not perfect, but I had fun with it. I liked it. I do recommend it. However, I am just kind of left wondering if there will be more or not.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I liked it. And
I,
another detail
same.
a detail I want to share is that yeah, it kind of sucks that when we see Finn, original Finn, jumping to original Finn, it does kind of suck that he does seem still kind of down with the whole Jake thing, and he's obviously like doing stuff to like kind of distract himself and stuff. That is kind of sad. We're kind of seeing like, oh, Finn's still kind of going through some stuff. That kind of sucks, right? The one thing that's pretty good though is that at least it seems like he still has a lot of friends. He's still hanging out with different members of Jake's family. Like in one of the spin-offs, we saw him hanging out with I guess it would be like his great niece or whatever, because it's the daughter that the skateboarder girl that is the
Yeah.
daughter of Jake's son, the one that tried to steal their house. I'm gonna like take it back, the one with the ocarina.
Hmm.
That he's hanging out with like that girl in one episode, and here he was trying to hang out with TV, which is one of Jake's kids. That he's kind of lazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, so he's hanging out with that guy. So at least he still has lots of friends. It looks like he still, has his connections with people. He's still whatever. And yeah, so that was surprising. It looks like he's still together with Huntress Wizard because people were wondering, like, does he end up with anybody? He's still hanging out with her because he mentions her a lot. And he even says, like, all right, Simon, like, I'll see you later. I'm gonna go hang out with Huntress Wizard or whatever. And he just like kind of like goes off.
Yeah.
So it looks like he looks like he did kind of end up with her from what we can tell. And yeah, kind of funny details like in Farm World, um, a lot of his kids, they either have like green eyes or there's one that has red hair. And whenever we see Huntress Wizard in human form, she has red hair. So it's implied that she was the mother that died. And then there's another little Easter egg where like there's like a soup that they're serving, and they say that it's like a soup that it's just like always cooking, and they just like keep adding ingredients to it. And someone that knows about it, they're like, oh yeah, if you actually look up that soup, it's called the Hunter soup. And they're like, so that seems to be like another implication that like
Hmm.
in that world he also ended up with like Huntress Wizard's equivalent. Oh, and then Fiona, she seems like she's gonna hook up with Hunter, which is like a redheaded dude that works out like as a gardener in nature.
Hmm.
So it seems to be kind of a constant that like the same way that Princess Bubblegum and Marceline kind of end up together in different worlds. It looks like, yeah, I guess like Finn is just like meant to like get together with Huntress Wizard, I guess. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of an interesting little detail. I decided to like make that like a thing. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, so for people who are worried that Finn just like doesn't really like end up with anybody, I don't know. It looks like he kind of maybe ends up with her. So like, there you go.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, so Finn's doing fine enough. He's kind of hurting from the Jake thing, but it looks like he's doing okay. All right. So with that out of the way, was there anything else that you watched? Anything else that you wanted to talk about, or is that basically it for your week?
Unfortunately, that is basically all I did. I was playing the new DLC for Kakarot, but since there's nothing really to talk about because I haven't really gotten into like the plot,
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's nothing really to talk about basically. Yeah, no.
All right. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully, you'll get more into it. You can describe it in the future, or you can, watch something else. But
Hmm.
at least we finally had the Fionna and 𝐚𝐨𝐽 discussion, so that was fun.
No, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. All right then, jumping over to my week then. Um, as I said last week, last season of anime kind of came to an end, except for a few shows, like I said, here and there, that they're still kind of ongoing. They haven't like ended quite yet. But with one season out of the way, that means that a new season has started. And this season started off like right away. I mean, like sometimes, like, let's say the season's supposed to start like, October 5th. But then a lot of the shows don't start until like a couple weeks in sometimes. But this time it seems like it started really like right off the bat, where like if fall 2023 season starts October 5th, there was shows that came out like that same weekend, like quite a few of them. So.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I watched three shows that I wanted to talk about. So the first one is a returning show, and that is, of course, Spy Family Season 2. And Spy Family is so much fun. I talked about it before. For anyone who needs a recap or just doesn't know somehow, I don't know, you've been living under a rock or something. Spy Family is the story of this family that it's three people that get together to make this little family, but they're not related. Basically, there's Lloyd Forger, who is a spy, and he's this like top spy that he needs to investigate because in their world, the East and the West nations, they're fighting. And so part of his spy work is that he needs to like there's this guy that never like really makes public appearances except at his son's school. And so Lloyd is tasked with you need to like create, a fake family, and you need to find a way to like infiltrate that school. That way you can like make friends with or get close to that guy so you can like investigate him. So our boy Lloyd, he sure enough, needs to create himself a fake family. So he first finds himself a daughter from an orphanage. Her name is
Anya.
Anya, and
Yeah.
Anya's a total little gremlin. She is great. And not only is she a little gremlin, which is like what makes her so fun, she's like hilarious because she's like super like just really crazy, but she is also a telepath. She can
Hmm.
actually read people's minds. And so that leads to all sorts of like really funny moments of her like being really excited with what her parents, adopted parents do and reading their minds and like, I don't know, man. It's just you just have to see. But she's a
Yeah, she's
telepath
funny.
and she just uses her powers for all sorts of funny stuff, man. She's just a really fun kid, really great kid character. And so, okay, Lloyd, he adopts this little girl named Anya, and he doesn't know that she's a telepath, but she does know that he's a spy, and she's super excited about that. But okay, he can't just be the single father with his, daughter. So he needs a wife. So he ends up marrying this woman named
Your
yeah, such a weird name, right? Yor. But he ends up
your
naming this, yeah, this lady named Yor, but she is an assassin. And basically she knows that because she's reached an age where she's still single, it's hard for, people are gonna kind of start suspecting, like, okay, what's up with this woman being single, and like why does she have like no family to speak of, and it's gonna ruin her cover because people are gonna
hmm
start suspecting that, like, okay, if she doesn't have a family, then she's obviously like a spy or there's something up with her. And so she's looking for, some sort of like a husband, and Lloyd is looking for some sort of a wife, so he marries her, and she becomes like Anya's mom basically. And so the three of them, it's all about them being a family and all the shenanigans they get into because they all have like their secrets they're hiding from each other. And so it's just really
Mhm.
fun, it's just a really fun show. And yeah, this first episode back was just really funny, where basically it starts with like Yor, as her job as an assassin, and she has like all these like guys around her that she assassinated. Which yeah, sometimes you forget the freaking Yor and freaking Lloyd, they're freaking killers, dude.
They're violent, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of forget sometimes. It's such a like a goofy like show. You kind of forget that goddamn, they're like really like cold blooded in their job because yeah, she's like had a bunch of like dead men around her, and she's calling it in that she like assassinated everybody. And then this guy with the gun shows up. You hear a gunshot, and you don't know what happens. It cuts to uh, Lloyd and Anya at home. They're watching the news. They're kind of sitting around watching TV. And then Yor comes home. That supposedly she went to get milk and eggs, and she's like, she looks mad. She looks grumpy. She's like frowning, and we find out it's because she got shot in the butt, and
Yeah.
so she like does not want anybody to know that she's hurt because obviously she can't let them know about her secret like job. And Anya can hear that she got shot, and she's all impressed because she's like, "Wow, my mom got shot. She didn't die. She's amazing," which is really funny. But Lloyd thinks that she's pissed because she thinks that maybe she's mad because like he's not like paying the right type of attention to her, and so he like asks her out on a date and to like try to cheer her up, and like the whole date she's just like mad, and she like won't sit down no matter where they go, and he thinks it's because she's like mad at him, and it's like no, because she doesn't want to sit down because she has like a bullet hole in her butt. It's just like so
Huh.
funny. And so it's just stuff like that where like them hiding their secrets from each other is always so funny. So it's just like all this like comedy of her like just not wanting him to know that she's shot and not trying to like show that she like is hurt and stuff. And meanwhile, when they're on their date, Anya's just like chasing them around, and I don't know, it's just really funny. But that's just the way the show works. It's just really fun seeing these three try to be a real family while hiding their secrets from each other and stuff. And then there's the comedy and like they don't know how to interact with one another because like they've never had families, none of them. And then freaking like Anya, the fact that she can use her telepathy for what all her dumb stuff, like it's just really fun. It's a really fun show, really funny. And this first episode I thought was a really strong return. So I'm just excited because like this show's always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this show's back. I'm excited. And once again, for anyone who wants to watch it, it's on Crunchyroll. That should be easy to track down. And yeah, I recommend it. I've only watched one episode of this new season, but if it's as fun as it's been before, I think we're in for a good season. So I'm excited.
That was pretty cool. I can't wait to see
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's
second
really
season too, yeah.
yeah, it's really fun. I think it's gonna be really fun. I've heard good things from people who have read the manga, you know what I mean? So yeah. Then after that, totally, total change of pace. I then watched a new series that I had heard people like were excited for this one because I guess like the manga has been like a lot of fun, and it's one of those that people were like, "Oh boy, I hope it gets an adaptation." And now that the adaptation is here, from what I saw, this first episode was really fun and it was really intriguing. So I've heard good things about it, and based on what I watched, I have high hopes for it. It's called Undead Unluck, and basically, it starts that there's this girl, and her name is Fuko Izumo, and it starts that she's at first you don't know that she's reading a manga, right? Like you just see like all these scenes of this thing happening,
Yeah.
and it's like this like romance, right? And you don't really know what's happening. But then, it kind of, the main character's kiss or whatever, and the girl who's our main character, it cuts that it was her reading like the manga or whatever. And she's like, now that that's over, I can finally like off myself. And you're like, kind of
What
like,
the
what the hell?
heck?
And you're like, what the hell? And then like there's this guy with like slicked back white hair. He's like super buff. He has all these tattoos. He's just like drinking like a soda or whatever in front of her. And he's just watching her. And he's like telling her like walk like to get off the edge, right? Because she's gonna like throw herself off like a like a bridge onto like the tracks below. There's like a subway or like a train or whatever, and she says that she's gonna kill herself. And she's basically, saying that, oh, it's because she's unlucky and, blah, blah, blah. But she's not really explaining what she means. And the guy gets close to her. And then as she accidentally like ends up like stabbing him, I want to say, and it doesn't hurt him. Like he like heals right away. And he's like telling her to explain her what she said about her power, that she's unlucky. And as she's kind of explaining it, the ground under him crumbles and he gets hit by the subway. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it again. My unluck that like whoever like touches me, it brings them bad luck, blah, blah, blah. And then his head just like rolls up next to her and he like starts like reforming his body. And basically he has like this, we learn that he's like basically immortal. Like he has like these regenerative powers where he can like mold his body starts like forming again. And he can use like his blood streams as like jets almost. So like think of Iron Man. You know how Iron Man when he's flying around, you know how like, he's using like those little propulsion things in his like hands and the bottom of his feet?
Yeah.
This guy basically does that but with his blood.
Damn, that's badass.
And so he's doing that and he like grabs the girl and he like flies away with her. And that's where he like kind of tells her to really explain herself better. And that's where she explains that, like 10 years ago when she was 8 years old, that she was hugging and kissing her family, her parents goodbye, and they got on the plane, and the plane blew up, and like 200 people died that night. And that she found out that all the people that she has come into contact with, like if they like touch her, like skin contact, that it's like bad luck in some sort of way. And like the longer they touch her, like the worse the luck is or whatever. And the guy gets excited because he's immortal. He says that, oh, maybe using like her bad luck, it can finally kill him because he wants to die because he's been around so long. And as they're discussing all that, these like mysterious people, that they're like this mysterious organization, we see that they're tracking them, and they had followed them back to the guy's like, what do you call it? Like lair, I guess you'd call it. And before that, the guy being kind of a weirdo, not like, I guess like you can tell it's not like he's trying to be like a weirdo, like a perv, but it kind of comes across like that because he's all excited to like touch the girl.
I had a feeling you were going to say that was probably going to be the implication. Yeah,
and the girl is kind of like freaked out and like trying to run away because the guy's saying like he wants to like touch her. And like I said, it's not like the guy's being like a perv where it's like, oh yeah, I'm like touching you because it turns me on. It's just that like he wants to touch her so he can like get the bad luck to like test it out. So there's kind of like a bit of like comedy / kind of cringe from that. It's kind of weird, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then they kind of have a bonding moment where he cuts her hair because no one's she hasn't been able to like really be near people. He cuts her hair because she had long ass. Going back to like the Adventure Time thing. Remember when Finn took off his hat? He had like the long ass like luscious hair.
Yeah,
that's what the girl had. She had like freaking like miles of hair, and so he like gives her a haircut, and then that's gonna kind of bond a little bit, and that's where she kind of sees that like, okay, he's not like a bad guy. Like even though it's kind of weird, you can tell that he is nice, and it's just like he wants to really like try to off himself, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Point is, they bond. The weird people show up. They trap his head in this weird container. That way he can't regenerate. And basically they say they're going to try to use the girl's powers for like themselves or something. And that's where basically because she had just touched the guy earlier, like before this organization came up, bad luck happens that he gets struck by lightning. The guy that was holding him in like the bowl, like the little cover, and then he's able to free himself. And then he kind of helps the girl, get free of the people that are trying to like hurt them, because we don't know what's up with this mysterious organization, but it looks like they definitely don't mind like hurting them and like all this stuff. And then the girl says that, okay, I'm gonna use like my ultimate move that like it's gonna bring you like the ultimate bad luck. So she grabs the guy's head and she gives like a kiss on the cheek, and then she starts running, and sure enough, it's crazy, that's like how good the bad luck works. The guy that was holding our, the head of our undead guy, the building they're in gets struck by a meteor.
Damn.
So that's how crazy her bad luck is. It's not like a coincidence. Like, no, like it's legit. Like, because she like upped the ante, like she said, the building they're in got struck by a meteor and it killed all of the evil organization. And then, like obviously his head like rolls up to her and his body starts forming again. And that's where they say, like, oh, my name is such and such. And she's like, what about you? And he's like, I've been around for so long and I don't even remember what my name is. And like, I don't even think it matters. Just call me Undead. And she says, no, that doesn't sound right. So I guess based on Undead sounding like, I guess in Japanese, like kind of like Andy, she calls him
Yeah.
Andy. And so basically it's about how her and Andy are going to team up to, I guess, see if they can like kill him. I guess I don't know. I don't know what the implication is. The point is they're teaming up and they're going to use their like unique powers, I guess, in some way. So really strange. It's really out there, really crazy. The powers are really crazy so far, but it's very creative story, very unique. It looks like the relationship between the two characters is going to be fun. I don't know. Yeah, it just seems really interesting, honestly. That's all I can really say. It seems really interesting, really unique, and I really want to see more because it looks really crazy the way they use their different powers and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, very strange. But yeah, I'm really excited to see more. And like I said, I've heard good things about it from people who have read the manga. They say it's like a really unique thing and that they're excited for the adaptation. And after watching this first episode, I am too, because it looks really cool. This one is on Hulu, which is weird because you know how most things are like on,
High dive.
yeah, or like freaking Crunchyroll. This one's on Hulu, which is weird. So
Yeah, that is pretty weird, but it sounds pretty interesting now.
yeah, so I really, really want to see more. So I'm excited for this one. So far that is 2 anime. It's 2 for 2. 2 that I've watched and 2 that I'm very excited for going forward. So yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, the last one that I watched is another one that I had heard a lot of people talk about, that they have read the manga, that they were excited for it to get adapted, blah, blah, blah. So there's like it's a lot of stuff getting adapted this season. So that's pretty fun. And this one is called The 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. That's right. It has 5 reallys. And this one, basically, it seems to be making fun of the whole rom-com harem thing. Like it's taking it to the extreme, where our main character, his name is Rentaro Aijo. And after confessing to and being rejected by the 100th girl in his life,
Damn.
yeah, he gets really sad. And so he goes to a shrine. And he's at the shrine and he's, praying for love. He wants a girlfriend. And basically, the god of love appears and he tells them that it's because he has to meet his soulmate. And he tells them, like, don't worry, you've had bad luck because, you're meant to meet your soulmate. And when you meet your soulmate, there'll be like that, like electric spark between you, the two of you. And like instantly you'll know that like, they're like the one or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he tells them, don't worry, like it's in the cards. It's your destiny that you're going to meet like your soulmate, like in your high school career or whatever. And so the guy, he kind of goes like, okay, if I remember or whatever. And he goes to school. And as he's thinking about it, he accidentally runs into these 2 girls and he knocks them over. And one of them is this wealthy girl with pink hair. And the other one is a tsundere with blonde hair. And the moment they all run into each other, there's like that spark and they instantly fall in love with him. And, one of them's being obviously like really like forward and the other one's being more of a tsundere, but they're both interested in him and, blah, 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 stuff happens. And basically they both confess to him and they say that he has to choose who he wants to be with. So he goes back to the shrine and he's talking to the god of love and he's saying like, how am I supposed to choose? How do like normal people choose when they meet 2 soulmates or whatever? And the guy's telling him, well, it's because people don't usually have more than one soulmate. But it's because I was really distracted watching TV. And so on the forums for your life, I accidentally put, instead of 1, I accidentally filled it out and I put 100. So you're destined to have 100 soulmates, kid. And the guy's like, what in the hell? How does that work? And he's like, well, you're going to have 100 soulmates. So there's 100 people who are going to be in love with you. And not only that, but not only that is where it gets interesting. But he's like, but the way it works is that, if you don't return the feelings of whoever says they're your soulmate, um, something about like that like drains all of their luck, being shot down by like their soulmate. So they'll die.
What the hell?
Like something bad will befall them. So basically he feels really bad. And at first he had said that he would like, oh, I'm just gonna like go out with both of them, but I won't like let them know. I'll keep it a secret. But then like when it cuts to him actually talking to the girls, it cuts back to like the night before that he like punches himself. He's like, no, I can't do that. Like that's really scummy. Like I know how much courage it takes to like ask somebody out, confess your love, and like I can't do that. Like he feels bad like about being a cheater. So he says that he will like wants to like love both of them and date both of them, and they go with it. And so there you go. That's the first two girlfriends of his 100 girlfriend harem. So
Damn, my boy's the luckiest guy I've ever seen in the anime. That's
so we're
crazy.
gonna see how that goes. And so I don't know, man. It's wild, but it looks like it's gonna be really funny. And
Yeah,
like I
it
said,
feels funny.
it sounds like it's gonna be funny. I've heard some stuff about some of the people that join his harem. It looks like it goes in a weird direction. So it looks like it's literally just trying to like be like fun, kind of like make fun of the whole harem thing by like taking it to the extreme of like,
Hmm.
what if there's like 100 girls they're interested in him and shit? And like, I don't know. I've heard it's supposed to be funny. I've heard the girls are actually supposed to surprisingly be really well written, actually.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So I don't know. I think it's gonna be fun. And the main character, he seems interesting too, because like, I don't know, he could have been totally devoid of personality, where like he's just kind of there. But I thought he was kind of fun, like his interactions with like the god of love and like the whole thing where he's like, no, I can't do that. I don't want to be a cheater, And I don't know. He seemed interesting so far from what I saw. You know what I mean? So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see if he's interesting or what. You know what I mean? But it looks like it's gonna be funny. It looks like it's gonna be fun. Once again, based on the first episode I saw, I'm really intrigued to see more. And I've also heard some good things about like the manga and stuff that it's just like really ridiculous, really fun. So there you go.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's another one that's on Crunchyroll. So two of the
Okay.
ones I watched are on Crunchyroll. One of them is on Hulu. And yeah, that's three for three. Three that I watched and three that seem really good and like really fun.
Yeah.
So far, pretty strong start to the season. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, and that's it for my week. There you go. Three anime that I saw, three anime that I recommend. Hopefully people check them out. And like I said, a pretty strong start to the season. So I'm excited to see what else is coming up and what else I can talk about, because that's only three. And I've heard there's supposed to be quite a bit more. So we'll see how it goes. Alrighty, guys. With that being said, jumping over to our news, we have three news stories, and I think they're pretty interesting in their own way. None of them are exactly, I mean, one of them is kind of new, although I think it's stuff that could kind of been hinted at before. So some of them are going to be updates. One of them's kind of new. Starting with the first news story, this is something we talked about before, but Silent Hill Ascension launches October 31st for desktop browser, iOS, and Android. So if anyone remembers, we had talked about all of those Silent Hill announcements, and one of them that we had mentioned is something called Silent Hill Ascension that I'm still not even really sure how it's going to work, but it's supposed to be like this interactive story where people will like make decisions as they're watching, and that will affect the choices that like the characters make and stuff. So it kind of makes me think of almost kind of like a Telltale game where a lot of people, would kind of like play and make different decisions. And then it would tell you like what decisions people made. And I guess some of the more popular ones is kind of what would carry over to other like seasons sometimes. It kind of sounds like that, but it is supposed to be, I think, like in real time, I think. At least that's the kind of the way they make it sound. So it's very weird, but I am very intrigued. That is what I'll say. Like I saw a lot of people in the comments saying that this was like stupid and nobody asked for this and blah blah blah. And I saw a lot of negativity, but I am intrigued. And from what I've seen, there's nothing that says like, oh, this is gonna be bad. So I'm trying to stay positive. So I don't know. I'm just intrigued. I think it sounds interesting. And that's really cool. That's coming on October 31st on Halloween. I think that's a pretty good launch date. And yeah, it's supposed to says 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern. And like I said, I'm just really intrigued because I just have no idea how this is going to work. But I'm just hoping that, I mean, if it's at least somewhat interesting and it's somewhat intriguing, I
Yeah.
mean, they're experimenting with something pretty different. So, like I said, I'm just trying to stay positive. You know what I mean? Like, could it be like a total mess and be stupid
Most
and
likely,
stuff?
yeah.
I mean, especially being Konami, Konami just hasn't really knocked things out of the park lately. You know what I mean?
They haven't.
But I'm still trying to just stay positive because it sounds intriguing, and who knows? Maybe it could work. I don't know. So I don't know. Until I'm proven otherwise, I'm looking forward to this, and I really at least want to see how it works because they haven't really explained that. And so I kind of just want to see like, so that's how they ended up doing it. Cool,
Yeah.
So yeah, if you guys are interested, you guys should check it out. It is launching on Halloween, and yeah, it's on desktop browser, iOS and Android. So it seems like it's pretty widely available, as long as you have a phone or you can even play it like on your desktop. So pretty cool. Second news story. This is
Oh
one that,
my
like I
God.
said, it feels like they kind of I feel like this was kind of hinted at before. It feels like it's something that it's not like a total surprise, you know what I mean? Because they've been shutting stuff down. As the news story article states, 3DS and Wii U software online services to end in early April 2024.
Oh my God. R.I.P., bruh.
So basically, what they're saying is that, yep, so you can't buy games from, the eShop, whether it's DS or Wii U. You can't play online anymore. You can't use any of those, online capabilities. The only thing that's still sticking around for a while is Pokemon Bank, although they did say that that might shut down in the future as well. And you can still do stuff like Street Pass, or, you can play locally, online, but you can't do like, online, like using the servers and
Yeah.
stuff. And like I said, this isn't surprising because I know Nintendo has been shutting different things down. They closed the eShop not that long ago, all that stuff. So I don't know. On the one hand, I do get it because, like, 3DS and Wii U, not only were those succeeded by the Switch, but we're at a point where we're probably going to go on to like the Switch successor soon.
hmm
So I do get it in that sense that, like, okay, that's like we're moving to like 2 generations down, right? So it kind of makes sense that they're not going to keep up like the servers and stuff, I guess, like forever. I do kind of get it, but at the same time, it is still kind of disappointing because it just sucks when they shut all this stuff down. And so this stuff is just kind of like it's done. It's kind of like from
Yeah.
here it kind of starts to like get lost, and you have to hope that the emulation scene and preservation scene does its job, you know what I mean? Because how else are you going to play some of these games now? Like 3DS games, Switch didn't have the backwards compatibility. Will the next season, system have it? The next console, who knows? So you have to hope that, like I said, emulation and preservation people are doing their job, or else that's how we lose stuff. You know what I mean? So that it's disappointing, obviously.
Yeah. Especially because it's a 3DS and Wii U were like the last, because this Switch, how the Switch you have to pay for the online.
Yeah.
These two were like basically the last, because I don't know if the next console might have free online, which I kind of doubt.
Yeah, I doubt it.
But
Nobody has the free anymore, so no. I doubt
exactly.
it.
So these are the last two that are free, basically. Because for me, I grew up around the online services like 3DS and Wii U. It's literally just easy to go on freaking like Mario Kart 7 or Animal Crossing and connect to random strangers within like a heartbeat, basically. Like easily, basically. And so it sucks that, yeah, like now that's going to be gone. Obviously, it makes sense because, 10, 12 years has passed. But like it sucks because where there's no other replacement, you know what I mean? Like the online capability, there is no free online anymore. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
and then it makes it kind of harder because it's kind of like, like I said, you kind of lose access to a lot of stuff that was like online and
Even the games, and yeah,
yeah, so it's just like I said, like I get it to an extent, but it still sucks.
it does. Yeah,
And then this is why people who like, oh, emulation bad and preservation, isn't that like not what the companies want, this and that. It's kind of like that's where it's kind of like, well, screw what the companies want. If it was up to the companies, they would let stuff be lost to time and they would just pull out whatever they want whenever they want it. And like it's just total bullcrap, you know what I mean? That's why, stuff like preservation, emulation is important because if not, companies don't give a shit and they would just let stuff get lost to time. They would only save certain stuff and then keep like charging for it like really ridiculous, you know what I mean? So like that's
hmm
why preservation, all that stuff should never be seen as bad because like that's how we get stuff to not be lost, you know what I mean?
yeah, because
Like
it's like trying to get rid of history. You know what I mean? It's like trying to get rid of history. By you trying to get rid of history, it's stupid because it's like why if people should know about certain stuff or people should like want to be interested in knowing about certain stuff. And then like by getting rid of it, then like you just keep stuff that doesn't like I don't know. It's like that, you know. It's like you're just getting rid of stuff that is interesting, you know, including those games, you know.
yeah, so it's one of those things where like I don't know, hopefully people, when they said the eShop and stuff was going to go down, hopefully people got all of the games they wanted to get and hopefully people have their hacked slash modded systems so they can keep using them and stuff. And like I said, hopefully the emulation and preservation people do their jobs. That way, we don't lose some of the stuff. Now that those systems are kind of being, you know, discontinued, like for good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. So pretty sad, but it is what it is. And like I said, hopefully stuff is archived somewhere out there so it continues to live on. You know?
yeah, that's what I'm hoping to.
Yeah. All right, and finally, our last news story. This is probably gonna be the shortest one because it doesn't really say much. But basically, if you guys remember last week, I talked about Castlevania Nocturne, and I talked about how I enjoyed it enough. I thought it was all right. That I thought it was kind of interesting to see, that them jumping to another place in the timeline and a different Belmont. That this time it was more about, the French Revolution and fighting back against all of the vampires who are basically the aristocrats and seeing this like power struggle and seeing this new like vampire queen that calls herself like a vampire messiah, that she's like really powerful and taking over everything, and she's promising like an era of darkness and stuff. I liked it. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was pretty, it has room to grow, obviously, but same thing with like the original Castlevania. The first season was like 4 episodes, and it was kind of like it felt like it kind of took a little, like the second season is where it really hit its stride, I would say. And then like the third season was kind of and the fourth season I thought was pretty good. So it kind of had its ups and downs. So I think that, this first season of Nocturne, I think it has some room to grow. And luckily, we don't have to be like, oh man, what if like it doesn't have that room to grow though? What if it gets canceled or whatever? Because as the title of the article states, Castlevania Nocturne animated spin-off series gets second season.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, basically, the show came out like just like a week or two ago, and they already, put out like a little trailer that says that yeah, they're gonna get a second season. So I'm like, good, because I do want to see more. Like I said, I think it does have some room to grow. I do want to see where the story is going because it does end on kind of like a cliffhanger. And I do want to see what more they adapt because basically it says that, oh, this is supposed to, from what I had read, I'm not too sure. It said that it's supposed to cover Castlevania Rondo of Blood and Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And so I really want to see how they do that, especially Symphony of the Night, because Symphony of the Night is the one where Alucard is the main character, and it's all about him being the one to like take the mantle of like protagonist and he's the one who has to like stop his father because Dracula, is his dad, obviously. And he's the one who
Mm-hmm.
has to like stop his dad and kind of tell him like, "Yo, you need to stop what you're doing. Mom wouldn't want this." You know what I mean? Like she's said to like believe in humanity, and they kind of already did that in the other first Castlevania series. So I'm kind of curious what they'll do for like this time around for this series. You know what I mean? Because like it looks like Dracula wasn't even going to be like the main antagonist this time. So like
Mm-hmm.
if they really do Castlevania Symphony of the Night, if they really are going to adapt some of that, I'm really wondering how they're going to do it. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm curious about too. But yeah, glad that it's going to get a second season. I think that's pretty good. And yeah, I'm just really curious to see where they go with it, what they adapt, etc. So pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I don't think it says when the second season's coming out. I'm pretty sure it's just like we got a green light for another season, and we're just gonna have to wait to see when that happens. So,
Mm-hmm.
but pretty cool. Like I said, I liked the first season. I thought it was fine, and I'm hoping that definitely. I hope they they get their footing and they kind of make those good adaptation choices and fix up whatever they need to fix up. Polish it up so that the second season can be even better than the first one. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys, and that is it for the news. So as you can see, we have some stuff coming up, both good and bad. And yeah, I'm just kind of excited for the two that are good, or supposed to be good. And when it comes to that middle one, the Nintendo stuff going offline, not very excited for that. I am kind of sad
Definitely
about
not.
that, but it is what it is. And at least I'm trying to stay positive in the sense that, okay, that's kind of going, away. Hopefully that stuff gets preserved. But yeah, I guess that kind of shows that they're going even more closer to like the next gen, the next console. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, So trying to stay positive, regardless. So jumping over to the topic of the week, the recommendation. Kind of actually mentioned it earlier. I name dropped it, but I recommend. I think that everybody should check out Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I kind of mentioned a little bit of the plot earlier, but yeah, Castlevania Symphony of the Night is the game that originally came out for the PS1 and Sega Saturn. I have only ever played the PlayStation version, honestly. Never played the Sega version. But the PS1 version, I think it's like a really good game. All right. It's actually considered one of like the greatest games. It's always like on the top lists. It's the reason that the genre is called Metroidvania. It's actually because of Metroid, Super Metroid, and because of Symphony of the Night. That's where Castlevania,
Mm-hmm.
Metroidvania. Because yeah, this is one of those games that made that genre popular. About like, okay, you're exploring like a map, and there's certain areas you can't get to, so you have to earn upgrades that help you retread back, and you can access new levels and areas and stuff like that. This is one of those games that popularized that. And it's just such a really good game, man. It's like so good. The gameplay is great. Um, the music is really good. The playing as Alucard is really cool. Alucard's really badass, like the different moves and stuff he has. And then, like I said, even the story is just really good. Even though the story is like really basic, you know what I mean? It's not like super like, oh my god, has like these like intricate cutscenes or whatever. What it gives us is really good. Where, like I said, it's features Alucard, who is Dracula's half vampire son, and it's all about how he basically wakes up from this long slumber when Castlevania, the castle, shows up again, and Richter. That's how it ties into the whole Richter, Belmont thing. Richter disappears, and so Alucard goes to the castle to investigate. Like, okay, what's happening? And when he gets there, that's where he kind of is, loses all his powers in the typical Metroidvania style. And it's all about him making his way through the castle, gaining all of these like powers and different weapons and stuff. And he has to fight his father. And along the way, we kind of see, a bit of his mom and how she was, like killed, which we kind of saw in the Castlevania animated thing. And we kind of see about how she kind of told Alucard, like trust in humanity, like they might be a bit lost or whatever, but like they deserve to live or whatever. And he fights, his father. And it's all about trying to like, tell him that, hey, mom wouldn't want this basically. And like, I don't know. That's why I think yeah, and that's what makes it so good. But like, it's such like an interesting story about playing as Dracula's son, having to fight your own father and shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it really adds some, it adds some story to it, adds some feeling to it. You know what I mean? It's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty good story despite being really pretty basic. Good, characters, good like moves and powers, and gameplay is really fun, and it has a lot of gameplay. It's good. It's a pretty low lengthy game. It's pretty good. And like the music's really good. The visuals I think are pretty good for the time, all sorts of stuff. So I don't know. It's a game that I've played, a couple times, and I just have fun with it. I think it's really fun. I really like it. And that's why I recommend it, because I think it's really good. And it's definitely more accessible than some of the earlier ones. Some of those earlier ones were that like Nintendo, like hard. Like those games that were like really hard when you think about it, where like the whole point, like arcade style, where it's like they were hard because the whole point is like to like pad out the game. You were meant to like lose, to keep like trying over and over again and stuff. And this game, still has like its difficulty. You still have to like know what you're doing. You still have to kind of like grind out for like all this stuff, but it's more accessible, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this game. I have fun. I've had fun with it. I definitely think that it deserves its spot, being considered one of like the greatest, influential games or whatever. So that's why I recommend it. I think it's really good. I think that people have fun with it. And yeah, I just think it's really cool, that you get to play as Alucard too. That's like so different, because it's always the Belmonts, right? Always the Belmonts. But this one, this time that you get to play as Alucard, it's a lot of fun, honestly. It's a really good entry. Yeah, I was gonna say it's really cool, and that's why I recommend it. And I think everybody should play it. Check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go, guys. That is my recommendation. Kind of ties into one of the news stories and ties into the whole Castlevania series that I've talked about before. And yeah, I'm just really interested, like I said, knowing that this game exists, seeing what more they do with the anime adaptation. So yeah.
Nice.
And yeah, with that being said, that is basically it for our podcast. But there you go, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to it. Hopefully the stuff that we talked about, we can convince you to check some of it out, because, Fionna and 𝐤𝐸 is definitely worth a watch. The anime that I talked about, I think is all worth checking out. The stuff that we said that's coming up, I think is worth, maybe taking a look and giving it a chance. And finally, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, our recommended topic of the week or whatever. I think that is like awesome and definitely worth checking out. So, hopefully we give you some stuff that you can add to your list of stuff that you want to play or watch or whatever. So yeah. We'll see if we can be back next week. I'm hoping so. Hopefully, as I also said, we kind of are able to start doing some recording so we can kind of get the channel back up again also. And yeah, with that being said, we hope that you guys have a good one. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.